Princeton University's Keller Center, educating leaders for a technology-driven society.
I'm very delighted that we have Sophie Vanderbroek here today as our second speaker in this year's Leadership in the Technological World lecture series. This series, as many of you know, is sponsored by Princeton Center for Innovation and Engineering Education. Sherrod Malik, my colleague, is the director of the center. And the center, among its activities, one of the goals of the center is to train leaders, both engineers and non-engineers, to take their places in a technological society. And the center has many activities along these lines, but one of its most important activities, maybe perhaps its most important activity, is exposing students and others to technological leaders. And that's the purpose of this lecture series, is to show students by example what technological leadership is about. And of course, our guest today, Sophie Vanderbroek, is such a leader. We're very happy to have her here. Sophie is the Chief Technology Officer and President of the Xerox Innovation Group, in which she's responsible for Xerox's worldwide research centers, of which I think there are 5.
Four and one with joint venture.
Okay, okay. And I guess it says here maximizing the company's multi-million-dollar investment in research and technology. I imagine that's probably multi-billion-dollar, actually. And I'll quote her here, as she puts it: creating change, bending the rules, and exploring the unknown are catalysts that drive innovation at Xerox. Risk-taking and viewing the world in new ways is part of the company's fabric. Seeing our ideas become products that help our customers do great work is what motivates us and is the foundation for our billion-dollar R&D initiatives. Sophie was born in Leuven, Belgium. She's a graduate, an engineering graduate of the Catholic University in Leuven. And she received a PhD in electrical engineering from Cornell. She's been honored by many organizations. She's a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, the IEEE. And she's also served in administrative roles within the IEEE as a volunteer. She's been a Fulbright fellow and is a fellow of the Belgian American Educational Foundation. She's also the holder of a number of patents herself. If I read all of the awards that I have listed here, she wouldn't have any time to talk, but I'll just say that Sophie has received awards from Xerox, IBM, competitors, HP, Monsanto, the Belgian National Science Foundation, IEEE again, Cornell University, and so forth. She's also given a lot back to the community, serving as a judge in MIT Technology Review, Young Innovators Award competition, the Wall Street Journal Innovation Award competition, the first Lego and robotics competition, regional awards, and so forth. She's also served on a number of university advisory committees and other advisory boards. In recent years, Sophie has been responsible for coordinating Xerox's engineering efficiency and effectiveness, a period during which Xerox refreshed more than 95% of its office product line. Some of you may have been here last year when Anna Mulcahy, the CEO of Xerox, spoke, and she spoke a bit about Sophie's accomplishments then. And we're very happy to have her here. And as you'll hear today, the innovation process is alive and well at Xerox, and largely as a result of Sophie's leadership. So, Sophie, thank you very much. We look forward.
Good, thank you. And by the way, IBM is one of our partners. That's a correction for the webcast, no kidding. HP, yeah, that would be different. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. I always love visiting top-notch research institutions and universities because I learn so much. And indeed, today I had the privilege to talk to several of the professors here. And it was just so enriching for myself, so thank you for that. And I hope that in the reception I get to talk with some of you and get your input on the talk. But before I start, who saw Anne Mulcahy's presentation, our CEO, a year ago? Okay, great, some of you. So she must have spoken about the whole turnaround story, and for some of you who might know, back in the year 2000, Xerox was actually on the verge of bankruptcy. We were losing $400 million a year, and that's exactly the year Mulcahy became our CEO. And as of last year, we made $1.2 billion in profit. I mean, it's really like an exponential turnaround. And indeed, I think one of Anne's quotes that she says herself when she talks about the importance of R&D and research and technology, which I manage for Xerox, is how can I rescue the company today and jeopardize its future? So as was indicated earlier, over the last 2 years, for example, we have refreshed 95% of our overall office production and services offering portfolio. So the investments in technology it's been always very, very important. I would love to make this interactive. If you have any questions, just ask. A slide I made on the plane, and I have witnesses, is I thought, okay, so this is the 3 topics I'm going to cover. Xerox innovation, our major research planks, and I would like to end with some lessons learned about how to really effectively lead in the technological world, because that was, after all, the topic of your lecture series. So I'll talk about some innovation leadership practices, I call them, which I have seen working in industry now. I did work at IBM before I went to Xerox, and I worked at Carrier Corporation as their CTO for a while. And so, but just looking at key practices is what is really important to successfully innovate, or to successfully get from invention to successful products and services that the customer cares about, because only then is it innovation. So as I said, this was a slide that I thought that I made in the plane on the way here, especially for the students. I mean, most of you really know these trends. The trends that really drive investments in research and technology is I bucket them in 5 buckets. One is a trend that has been around forever, right? I mean, Moore's law that allows us to continuously make things speedier and smaller. And for Xerox, it's both Moore's as well as Metcalfe's law with regard to bandwidth, being able to really print at extremely high speeds or image at extremely high speeds, gigapixels of data and information. So making things smaller and speedier. Then maybe 10 years or so ago, 5 to 10 years or so ago, with the explosion of all the digital information and all of our products and software all became networked and connected because of it, there were these 3 trends that I see. We had to make things simpler for our customers, right? I mean, there's so many amazingly embedded features and capabilities, and unless your products and services are simple to use, I mean, nobody's going to even know or want to use the capabilities of your systems. The second one is, of course, smarter. We want to make sure our devices and our services, but especially in this case, about 10 years ago, it was still mostly devices. Now we're all into the services business, but that the devices were able to diagnose themselves, to prognose their own problems, to remotely fix them, etc. And then finally, of course, security is very, very critical. Not only the network security of your devices, but also the security of the information contained in the documents, or and a document can either be digital or physical, but the security of the information that's available. And then the more recent trends, maybe in the last 3-4 years, is a whole trend to both, I call this here suitable, because by now you've seen I like to work with S's. The suitable meaning it's more than personalization. People talk about personalization and individualization, but that's not really what it is, because even as a person, right now, an hour before I gave this speech, I didn't need to know things that I need to know on Sunday or in the evening. I only want to know what I need today at this moment, no matter where I am, right? So information and knowledge has to be suitable for you to make your business decisions when you need to make them, or for the students when you need to write a certain paper. That's the kind of information you need at that point in time. So that's what I call suitable. Of course, the other thing is sustainability, and it's all about being socially responsible as a company. I mean, how do we run our business in the developing world? How do we help the people in the developing world successfully create their own businesses, as well as, of course, the whole environment, right? I mean, how do we make sure our products and services are environmentally friendly and green? So these are some of the trends. And actually, in suitable, I just showed the image there of one of our research labs, which is research lab number 6 in Second Life. We actually do have a research center. And this is me, this is my avatar. And this is one of our production presses and some of our office products. But we do love to have demos, and we have actually meetings with our researchers across the world. I do have a video, an early video, it's almost a year old now, of our research center in Second Life. Who does not know Second Life? Or who knows what Second Life is? Yeah. Okay, most of you. It is, for the other half, it is a 3D virtual world accessible through the web, just you go to the internet, where avatars really can interact with each other. I mean, right now there are 10 million users signed up. When we signed up, there were maybe a couple 100,000 avatars. But right now there are 10 million people who have an avatar, and there's lots of business being done, and also lots, of course, fun activities, lots of real money being made too. But there it's all about personalizing the interaction with your customers, with your colleagues. And for those of you who don't know it, you might want to go to it. To me, it's really the future, and I'm kind of going on a tangent a little bit, but it is the future of interactions in 3D virtual world. Today, when you're there, it looks like it is really at the stage where the early silent movies were, the black and white movies where there was no sound. I mean, that's what Second Life is today. But of course, in the future, it will be very interactive and social and emotional and sound. But that's all about being suitable to the individual. Now let me give you the Xerox market context, and I shouldn't have played with my slides this morning. The middle thing comes up there. So we play in 3 major areas. The first one here is really all about our hardware market, right? I mean, our printers, our scanners, our digital production presses, and that market we see growing. This is between 2005 and 2010, about not that much. You can say about $5 billion in the conventional, this office, small and medium businesses, etc. And the main switch is that there will be less business in mono, and people will print more and more in color. So a lot of the research that we do will be focused on color. Next, though, is what we call here creating a new business of printing, but capturing offset pages. Today, most magazines are printed on huge offset presses where everybody gets the same magazine, whether it's IEEE Spectrum magazine or National Geographic, and everybody, it's not personalized, right? It's not individualized to an individual person. So and you can only do that if things become digital. And so today, with today's technologies, and Xerox has digital production presses, about 17 billion of the 400 billion offset market is accessible with digital technologies. But you can see there is still, how much is it? $383 billion of market that today's offset that we can digitize. So huge market opportunity, and huge opportunity also for really individuals to truly get the documentation that they need and nothing more. I mean, applications today are, for example, personalized car manuals. I mean, you buy a car, you decide on your features, and before you walk out, you have a very nice car manual that looks like your previous car manual, but it's printed on the spot. Or there are websites for personalized book printing. For those of you authors, for example, there is a website called lulu.com, Lulu.com, where you can submit your book, and then the next day it's shipped to your house with a hardcover and a nice bio and a picture on the back and whatever you want. And in fact, my 76-year-old mother, a year ago, for Christmas, as a Christmas present, she decided to publish her poems. Finally, she has been speaking her whole life of publishing her poems. And she published her poems, she made it into a book, and she gave all her kids and grandchildren her personal book. I mean, this is amazing. Of course, she has a daughter that works in the industry, but it is available. She went with a local Belgian publisher and did it through his website, and that's how it works. But there's personalized photo albums. You go on a trip, and you have a nice coffee table book at the end with all of your pictures, etc. And so the third and the most promising market for us, even though the numbers, it's a yellow in the slide there, look small, but that's really the market that is exploding, is all about services. I mean, there are amazing amounts of information that's truly exploding on the web, around the globe, And how do we really, and many of our customers, some of that is printed. I mean, actually, there is more pages printed today than there were. We always thought the paperless office and the number of pages of printed will go down, but in fact, we still see a significant amount of pages printed going up. But this is not about page printing. This is just all the information that explodes, and how do we help our customer deal with their document-intensive processes. For example, we have multiple verticals. One of our verticals is the public sector, where we work with institutions like Princeton University and others. And in some of the institutions, this is not a Princeton example, but we go in and help completely automate admission processes. I mean, all of the documents related to that, as well as coursework and alumni fundraising, etc. A lot of this today still involves physical documents. You can truly use simplified workflows to automate most of that. But that is a growing market over the next 5 years. And we were discussing healthcare earlier. For example, healthcare is about 16% of gross domestic profit. But if you look up the part of the $1.6 trillion, I think, related to documents and information management and people associated with that, again, it's multiple hundreds of billions of dollars annually that people spend on that. So the market is really huge. So now I'm going to switch. The rest of the talk is all about research and technology and then innovation practices. But I wanted to make the market context a big deal, because again, innovation only happens when you make a customer happy and they actually make their own business more successful because of what you have delivered. Xerox has a long history of innovation. Xerography initially was invented by Chester Carlson, the man on, on the left, and Joe Wilson, the man on the right, was the entrepreneur who built this basic invention of xerography into a successful business. And really, that invention allowed people to much more easily share their information. I mean, the fact that you could easily make a copy of a document and share it with others was a major step forward in really making knowledge more easily available. Today we have about 5,000 engineers and scientists around the world, and together with our joint venture partner Fuji Xerox, who's headquartered in Japan, a 45-year-old joint venture, we invest about $1.4 billion a year in R&D. As a result, we get 2 patents issued to Xerox each and every day, which to me again is an indication of the smarts and the state-of-the-art research that people are doing across the company. And in our history, we have received about 50,000 global patents. Most recently, our innovation heritage has been recognized by some nice awards. I list 2 of them here. A couple of years ago, we got the IEEE Corporate Innovation Award for really creating the digital publishing market based on our digital technologies. And then just last August, I was in the White House because we got the U.S. National Medal of Technology, which again is really the highest recognition, as you all know, in technology that you can achieve in the U.S. I told them we need to go for Nobel Prize now. That's a bit more difficult. But no, it's really I'll shoot a message of my slides here. So we have here are the research centers. In addition to Second Life in the virtual world, we have 5. There are 5 research. I should say it like this: there are 5 research centers around the world that Xerox benefits from, and even many more if we include all of our partners, which I come to later. I live in Rochester, New York, and Peter Crane is with me here today. He's a senior fellow in our research center in Rochester, New York, and a Princeton graduate, physicist. So in Rochester, New York, the research we do is all about our next generation systems, our next generation printing, publishing systems, digital imaging, workflow associated with it. Then right across the lake in Mississauga, a suburb of Toronto, New York, is our materials research center. And there we do all of the research related to better inks and toners and nanotechnology. We have a program on printing organic electronics, because I know there's lots of work in organic electronics happening here too, because that could ultimately lead to fully flexible e-paper. So that's what's happening in Canada. Then we have a research center in Grenoble, France, where the focus is all on linguistics, machine learning, It's all around the digital document and really data mining, understanding the content of the documents and their context. So again, to get to the right information people need, and we call that our smart document technologies. And then there is PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center, where, of course, many things were invented, including the laser printer, but also, for example, the Ethernet. And we commercialized the Ethernet in our first digital production press 20 years ago, and it, of course, also became at the heart of the web. And so Palo Alto Research Center has been incorporated in 2000. So it is 100% wholly owned by Xerox, but they are PARC employees, intellectual property is separated, and they do research in addition to Xerox. For Xerox, 50% of their revenues is doing research programs for Xerox. The other 50% they do research programs for other clients, the government. They help startups, and they sell our license equity. And then, of course, we have our great joint venture partner, Fuji Xerox, and we have many joint programs. I was just there last week kicking off new programs, and especially in the printing space, the intellectual property is jointly owned. Or not jointly owned, separately owned, but licensed to each other. So without further ado, show you some of the researchers themselves to show you the different disciplines we have at Xerox.
Amazingly passionate, innovative, and entrepreneurial. In order to be a good innovator, you have to see what other people don't see, imagining the future today.
We've been working on a new research project, and we call it the Grateful Paper. And this is a new concept. It doesn't use ink, it doesn't use tone. Basically just a piece of paper that can form an image on.
What we did is really writing programs in the computer and language, the way we talk together.
As services become increasingly automated, it becomes possible to collect vast amounts of data about how things are performing and minimize the costs for the customer, maximize the reliability.
So right now I'm working on virtual worlds, looking at 3D virtual environments as a new place where people work and communicate and business.
We are now developing the ability to protect documents in a very, very cost-efficient way. One is microtext, which we can embed the numbers in a very fine line, and it's very, very difficult for a counterfeiter to modify, delete, or in any other way alter the data.
I'm an anthropologist, a classically trained anthropologist, and I've got one of the best jobs in the world. I get to do field work with people, find out what their lives are like, find out what their work lives are like, and then invent technology that's meaningful to them based on what they tell me.
I like to contact our customers. I like to be close to the people who relate to our customers, sales people. You need to see what the new technology is anything, but you also need to get the human touch.
The whole is more than the sum of the parts, and you get these kinds of connections. Some of the best innovations come at the intersection or cusp of the different disciplines.
There is a higher expectation put on us to be innovative, but that's a good thing. You improve by being around someone that's better than you are. So it is an expectation, but it's one worth having.
I think the ability to innovate here depends on people with the right entrepreneurial spirit, the right drive, the right intellect, and there's just a huge amount of serendipity involved in which projects will succeed technically, which ones will have the right market outcome.
I would say we have a large number of very tiny success stories coming every day when we come with a new idea, when we come with a new solution, when we're able to improve the technology.
And maybe that's even better than having a single success story once a year.
The stereotypically scientists are boring, people wear lab coats, and they are rigid, they are not having much fun. That's not true at all. And the reality is we got great experience be able to see, you know, the ideas you created will go somewhere. I would say that I'm not a pure scientist doing the science just for science, because I like the application and I like to look at ways of making science profitable.
I think the attraction to doing research is the ability to create and to use one's imagination. So what you do to a molecule that ultimately will become a stick of ink or a print process that everyone sees, and that's the exciting, that's the fun.
I think of myself as an inventor, as a technologist, as a scientist. I think of myself as a person who can develop or create new things that will be used by the people all around the world. That's a big deal for me.
Ultimately, it's all about people, right? I mean, it's people with bright ideas and passion who both not only give their intellect, but also their heart to their project, to their research, because they know ultimately the impact that their project will make, not only for their audience, but our customers and the world.
So normally when I show up recruiting events, it's to really show the students that we have really a need for engineers and scientists of all disciplines. And in fact, across our multiple research centers and field labs, we also hire a lot of anthropologists or work practice specialists to really truly go live with our customers and truly understand what they need. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Next, I'm briefly going to touch on the two research planks. The first plank is to truly seamlessly connect the digital and the physical world, right? Whether it is, some people come to us with tons of documents, like if you go into doctors' offices, and lots is still done with folders and files, and so we help them digitize. So it's the bridge between the physical and the digital world. And on the other hand, of course, there is all this digital information, and we want to have personalized, suitable information back to the individual, and that's the bridge between electronic and physical world. And of course, the research in this area, which is about, I would say, 65% of our research portfolio, is to truly enable this color, this move to color, as well as capturing the offset pages. And I'm not going to give more examples, so I'm not going to talk about printing and all of the great technologies or imaging that's embedded in there, because I want to give one example of our second research plank, and that is really all around creating technologies that can truly simplify these document-intensive business processes. And so to really enable those differentiated services, which was the third leg of our business strategy. So these smart documents, and that's either in the physical or in the digital world. Within the video, you saw one example of making documents more secure and smarter themselves. And I actually thought, just because this is something that I think is fun, but it does have definitely business applications such as security for checks or other documents. Who has read Ulysses? Anyone read it? How big is it? It's big, like 800 pages. Okay, that's the whole version of Ulysses here. I'll hand them around on one on each side. It's a microprint. It's a one font text. And we can print it because of the very advanced laser imaging technologies. And in fact, if you take a regular sheet of paper, make it full color, there are 2 billion pixels that have to be put on the right spot at the right time every time at extremely high speed. But anyway, that's and normally I have to hand out loops with them, so in case you want to, I'll give you a loop, you can look at it. That's what we do at the art, right? And you can try to read it. But so people would use it as checks, so I can actually give some examples for, and this is all integrated, this is on the market today in our free flow suite of software that our customers buy with the digital production process. But you can really digitize this font, for example, on each check. And again, in the offset world that exists, but it's not digital, every page is the same. Here with microtext, you can really print it on there. But there's more. There's also gloss marks where you can embed digital signature or digital images in the back of your documents. And again, these you cannot copy, neither can you copy that book. The font will disappear. But I will give you an example of a check that I will hand around. that has several of these features. We have all kind of fancy security features that customers can use for all kind of different applications. And print, the nice thing is it's really very affordable to print, because you can print it using our Xerox image printing systems, and the only thing you really need is the software that comes with it, and it can allow for secure documents. So this is the gloss mark example. For example, for medical application and packaging, if you want to make it more secure, you can embed the digital gloss marks in there. Lots of fun applications to make your hard copy documents more secure. But I would like to focus on the digital documents. And so how do we really make digital documents and digital workflows more effective and efficient, and make sure that the customer has what they need at any given point in time. So I spoke about admission process, but the one that I'm going to talk about here is, for example, a mailroom operation. So in a traditional mailroom, again, the paper comes in, letters come in on mail. I mean, somebody might manually scan it in, and then you still have a done digital document. Somebody needs to look at it and decide which department do I send this to. That's all manual process. And in fact, there are some of our businesses actually operate mailrooms for our clients. So this is an example that's been implemented with some of our clients. But there's a lot of manual processes associated with it. So some of the smart document technologies that are, let's hope this one works, that have been developed in our research labs, is it going? Help us to automate this. So we call it a smarter mailroom. But what happens here is still a document comes in hard copy form, you scan it in, then we have software that can do image identification is the next one, to try to understand what kind of image is this. It's not yet all, is it a typed document or handwritten, is it a form, or is it a bill request, and depending, you could have dozens of different categories, but here it knows it's a typed document, and if a document is typed, you can just apply OCR to the document. So we're going to OCR the document, and then once it is OCR'd, we apply some of our other technologies to actually extract some content out of the document, and we're then able to look at the content of a document and know if it's a bank reference, a bill request, is it a cancellation notice, and needs to get to a loan request or a new service, and in fact this document is in French, the language really doesn't matter. And then automatically the computer sends it to the right department. You can do the same with form. The same software can see what kind of document it is. In this case, of course, it's a form. And the beautiful thing is, especially at the step where you analyze the content, that you could also, and that's another example, I'm not going to show it in the interest of time, that find certain facts or intelligently redact the content contained in the document. And this one, of course, was a new service form and had to go to the services department. So, and you can do this either with structured or unstructured information. I mean, the documents could come in by email, or they can come in hard copy. And in fact, one of the most recent acquisitions that Xerox did, within the last year we have done several acquisitions, but one of them was Amiti, which is a company that helps lawyers deal with the millions of pages of information and documents that they need to analyze in order to win a court case, right? And so this company, most of the documents they get is just based on servers. I mean, they just get whole servers, and they then have to analyze all the documents that are contained on these servers. It's applying some of these technologies to automatically categorize which content is relevant to the case, which one is not. It makes an amazing impact on productivity, because right now, the way lawyers have to work, somebody has to look at every piece of information and decide, is this relevant or not, and what are the facts, and redact it. I mean, there's going to be an explosion of smart technologies that you can truly automate a lot of this kind of work. So this is just one example of the kind of research that we're doing that really is going to make a difference and really simplify and make much more efficient many processes. But this is a good time to ask questions. I was just going to ask, because the next is more about the lessons learned or the practices, and you have a question there.
Right, I'm very loud. How much does a system like that cost?
The system doesn't, we don't sell it as a system today. We sell it as a service.
Okay.
Let's say we work with lawyers to help them with their litigation needs, or we come in and automate your mailroom, or we work with legacy documents, and depending, the same. So it is not, we do not sell it, but ultimately it's just software, right? Just software. It is software that gets applied onto your processes to really get the content you need very effectively and get it to the right people, etc. So we do not sell it. Yes?
Several questions. First, easy one. With regard to the number of pages, which of course keeps going up, but is that on a per capita basis? Absolutely, of course they're going up, but is it on a per capita basis as well? And second, when one talks about individualized documentation, this bothers me a bit. I, as an innovator, if you like, prefer to get as much diffuse information as I possibly can, so that I can pick and choose and concatenate in manners that otherwise I would not have anticipated. Whereas if all I'm getting are the sports reports,
yes, of course,
then this silo effect is totally adverse to the way I'd like to approach an issue. And thirdly, a minor issue on the last question, since we have tried to be, but not successfully, paperless for quite some while, and in fact do not own and have not owned for 5 years a fax machine, but PDF everything. When your documents come in, any coding that's either in the header or some other obvious place will do much of the routing for you, and therefore you should be looking only at key fields rather than, so you're extracting rather than dividing. And so I can understand if people are really using real paper, although I don't know why they do that. But, so
those will be questions, eh? So the first question, I remember it. Maybe I forget the third one by the time I answer the second. The first question, I think in the office and production, the pages don't go up much. We see the shift from black and white to color, and in offset we see the shift from offset type pages to digital pages. The absolute value doesn't go up much, and so if the population keeps growing, then the pages per person, I think, is kind of flat, pretty much. But it is the type of page, right? It's a color page, it is a digital page, the 400 billion offset market, capturing digital pages. And of course, in services, what we're trying to do is help our customer have less need for printed pages. So that's your first answer. The second one, that's why I like to call it suitable information instead of individualized, right? It has to be suitable to you. You have to, I think the user, the individual, has to have an amazing say, a great say in the kind of personalized or digital information he or she wants to get. Some people might really want to have everything pushed to them with maybe some context or other related documents that are relevant. Others might want to have it much more vague and much more wide, so you can really find these nuggets that you're looking for. So it has to be, that's why I don't like the word personalized, it's more suitable. So we have to work that. Again, that's part of what Xerox and other companies are definitely trying to accomplish, or should accomplish, I believe. Third one, okay, the PDF one. The third question, I think our research is focused on, no matter how the document comes in, right? Whether it is a hard copy, a written document, a typed document, a form. Once you have the capability of having everything in PDF, there are, of course, already great features within PDF that you can use to automate your processes, and you have to leverage them. It would be not smart to invite and apply other things instead of leveraging the inherent capabilities of PDF. But a lot of what comes in and is being used, so even OCR often takes too long. So some of our software is to quickly recognize it. It's fast. We process millions and millions of images a day in our different imaging centers around the world. There is no time for OCR, each and every one of them, to find the content. So it's all about speed and simplicity and low cost. So 5 lessons I'm going to talk about. I think the first one, and I said at the end of the video, is all about people. It just is. Princeton only hires the best people here too, right? You screen them, you select them, Because if you don't, it's both hiring, it's a promotion, it is creating in Xerox. We really have a very diverse environment. For example, 40% of the engineers we hired both in 2006, about 37% in 2005, were women engineers. We had significantly more than 10% were Hispanic, more than 10% were Black, from different cultures. Our research center in Canada and in France, as people born in more than 40 different countries around the world. I mean, our customers are global, so really having this notion, and this has been going on for decades of Xerox, which I really appreciate. So the second, still related to people, is it is extremely important. I mean, if you have a new technology and you want to convince your peers that it is very valuable, even though it's threatening their core existence, and I think as one example in here on the next slide, because I can explain it, it is extremely critical that I call it, you have your ticket punched, right? That you have respect and credibility. I mean, in a research lab, or maybe in a university, I don't know how professors gain respect and credibility, but in a research lab, it was often that you published and spoke at the top-notch conferences in your industry, that you create patents, and that if your patents are being used in the product, that's even better. Of course, but that's how researchers create credibility with each other, right? You have a track record of exceptional research behind you, but then that's not the same as a business group. I worked in research for many years, and then I moved to the business group, and in fact, I became chief engineer, but definitely, when having a PhD and having all these publications and these patents don't gain you credibility with the engineers. What gains credibility with the engineering community is actually, I mean, people with credibility have been an engineer of a product, they've launched a product, they know about all the troubles when you first launch, they've worked, of course, with the customers and everybody else to resolve those. So what you do there, and that's what this quote says, you cannot, of course, either get a PhD in every area or get a degree in marketing and finance. I mean, you cannot do it alone. You have to get the right people in the boat with you, or in the bus with you, as Tim Collins said, in the right seat. I mean, often when we wanted to sell a project to one of the, to really get commercialized or adopted by the business group, we, meaning the researchers, would come up with a business case, and we would even say how to market it. But that is not the right thing to do, because even though the business case could have been fantastic, there is just no credibility. So you have to partner. I think that's very important. And then finally, it's all about relationships. I cannot stress how important that is. And I have many anecdotes and examples, but I know in the interest of time I'm rushing it a little bit. But so it's relationship. It is, you are working with people at work, right? I mean, you're working with humans who are potentially again afraid of the changes trying to drive. And I think as an engineer, when I first joined Xerox, actually it took many years, I always figured, A is bigger than B. Whatever, you make it up, that this transistor has a higher mobility than this one, so this should be better, right? And maybe even if it is technically, most people might just not accept it if it requires you to completely switch materials while they're working in their core competency, right? So the whole notion of really understanding what are the fears of all the people you're working with, and also what are their personal life all about. One of the things that Xerox does, maybe about 5 years ago or so, I was one of the center managers. Now I lead all the centers, I'm CTO, and they gave me a coach. And so the coach said, Sophie, she went around and talked to, and I'm sharing this personal now, she talked to all of my peers and said she's aloof. And me being not a native English speaker, I didn't even know what the word meant. Aloof, Google aloof, what does it mean? That's not me. But anyway, this perception is reality, right? So and it is because I was so focused on getting in meetings, I mean, action items, and I still am maybe a little bit deep, but getting the stuff done, going through the project, instead of asking on a Monday morning, how was your weekend? I mean, to me it comes naturally now. But and I had to make sure I had an example of how my weekend was, put it on the table. But the first time I did it in every meeting, people were like, "What's happening to her?" But it makes difference. Suddenly, in 1 week, I knew more about their parents and grandchildren and everything else than people I've worked with for 10 years. Then my problem was, how did I get track of all this information? And luckily, I had a BlackBerry. But it is very important. So I mean, these relationships, because if you are driving change, and the one example I wanted to give was our switch from conventional toners, which is drying, to chemical toners, and how difficult that was. I mean, the conventional is the middle. It is your molding, drying, big particles. I mean, this was in all of our products up until maybe 7 years ago. We are the biggest manufacturer of conventional toner. I mean, lots of capital invested, supplies business, everybody knowing this core competency really very well. And then, in the same time, the researchers, together with our joint venture in Japan, we developed chemical toners. We grow it, chemical engineering, right? You grow it from the nanoparticle size up in reactors, in clean rooms, while before, when you visit a conventional toner plant, you wear a coat, right? You wear one of those, how do you call it? The white coat?
Lab coat.
Lab coat, so your clothes don't get dirty. Now you wear lab coats so you don't contaminate toner processing, just to give you the... So anyway, that was a major shift. I mean, and so we had hundreds of patents, but nevertheless it was very difficult, even within the company, to really commercialize the technology, even for the customer. It's higher image quality, much lower running costs, good for the environment, just because of the whole difficulty with changing. And so this thing about having respect, credibility, the relationships, it's extremely important, and I think that's the only way that ultimately this all got resolved. And now, of course, in all of our color products in the office and the mono products in production, we are using these toners. But anyway, the second most important lesson is about the customer. It is about, I like to call this here, dreaming with your customers. And so in research for the last couple of years, every researcher has on their objectives to make sure that they have some dreaming sessions with the customers. And why do I call it dreaming? Because if you just, I like this quote from Henry Ford, right? If Henry Ford had asked the customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? I mean, the customer doesn't necessarily know, and you know this better being at the university than anybody else, the capability of the future technologies. I mean, you can see these technologies 5-10 years out, what potential capabilities could there be, but you might not see the pain points that the customers have. And that's why we have so many anthropologists. They go in, listen to the customers, observe the customer, bring some researchers with them. We also bring the customers to our technology showrooms that are associated with the research labs. We have a technology showroom at every research lab, if you ever want to come look. And I have a metric, there are about 2,000 customers, individuals, a year that come through the technology showrooms in the research labs to have these kind of dreaming sessions, truly understand your customers' pain points. And one of the things we learned in one of those dreaming sessions, for example, we had invented this technology where you print today and a couple days from now the paper is blank again and you just put it back in your paper feeder, right? So we call it reusable paper. And what it does is you don't need inks, you don't need toners, you keep reusing the same paper, so it's very good for the environment. Researchers have come up with it. And by the way, this won a Time Magazine Invention of the Year award this year. It's still in the research lab. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do with it? We have our multifunction systems for the office that print. We're going to just make it, for example, as an extra feature, so people can either choose to print a permanent document or a temporary document, or people can print their cover sheets with it. So that, let's go listen to the customer. Let's see how the customer really works. And one of the things we found, which was very interesting, is that a typical customer, 40% or more than 40% of a page printed in an office doesn't survive even the same day. I mean, it goes in the recycling bin or the garbage the same day, right? Which is really bad for the environment. Even recycling is not good because you use chemicals and energy to make the paper clean again, right? So we said, wow, I mean, there was an amazing response and an amazing positive reaction to, I would love to have a piece of paper that I print now and then I can just reuse it again as soon as I wanted to. So this is this invention. It's still in the invention stage, so it's not being productized today because we got a lot of feedback from the customers of things that they really wanted to make sure that it could do. But it was thanks to these dreaming sessions that we learned maybe there is a standalone option of this that could be really great instead of just putting it as an additional module. So it is really the dreaming sessions help us to clearly crystallize what our customer really would like. So the next is open innovation. We spoke about it a little bit earlier, and I am an extremely strong believer in that, right? I mean, especially with people around the globe. Of course, everybody knows Tom Friedman's book, The World is Flat. What I like to say, and actually I don't have the slides in there, is there's a professor in Florida who has this nice PDF article on Google that says the world is spiky. Has anybody heard about it? You should Google the world is spiky and look at it. What he thinks, he plots the map of the world with spikes of activities, like energy usage, right? You can see spikes. It's mostly flat everywhere, in Africa, in South America, and India, but you see spikes of activities. I think one of his maps is scientific publications, right? And that's what I'm looking at. Where are the new spikes of scientific publications? And there's spikes in Moscow, lots of tiny little spikes in India, spikes South Africa, etc. You can see where really the activity is happening, and because the world is quote-unquote flat, you can easily, no matter where you are, access these people and these spikes, and I think that's very important. And so we have multiple collaborations with companies and universities, etc. And also we're practicing with 9 Sigma. Who knows 9 Sigma? Good. 9 Sigma is nothing to do with 6 Sigma. It's a web broker. You might actually go look there. They're always looking for solution providers. 9 Sigma.
Yeah.
So you submit your technological problem. You say, for example, I have a problem with scratches on my photoreceptor, right? I mean, that's illustrated. That's not one of the ones you submitted. There are actually several Xerox problems posted right now if any of you professors want to give it a try. So we have this particular problem, you post it, and people from around the world can say, I have a solution for you. I work in the aerospace business and we have a very scratch-free coating for my airplane. Why don't you try it out on your photoreceptor or whatever? So the first time we tried it, we got responses from 50 different countries, 80 different people. It was just truly amazing. And so then the key thing is, of course, for the inventor, we buy their intellectual property, or it could be a partnership. I mean, many professors submit ideas, and then it basically could become a research project. One of the ones we just entered into is with the university. The number 4 out of the 5 lessons is it's one that is also extremely important, especially if you're pushing the boundaries of what you're doing. Can anyone read this word? Who can read it? Yes, somebody in the back. What does it say? Danger. Anything else? Anyone else? You know the proverb. So what it says, and this is my favorite proverb. I got it in graduate school when I was a student. If you read it, it says danger or chaos or scary. But if you cover the left stroke and only look at the right stroke, if you just show people only the right stroke, it is opportunity, right? Is it opportunity, right? Yes, right? Had you seen it initially? It's difficult, eh? No, that's right. So in a dangerous situation, and he was really shaking his head. In a dangerous situation, right? I mean, people often get, how can I say, paralyzed or don't see the opportunity that could provide, that this dangerous situation could provide. And for example, the chemical toner, conventional toner example that I gave earlier, right? They were some of the conventional toner people who immediately saw the opportunity chemical toner provides, and they studied, learned, jumped on board, and were the next area managers of really leading this new opportunity. I mean, whether it is even in your personal life, right? I mean, if it's 9/11, people helped each other, or an earthquake, or you name it, or even a sickness, etc. I mean, these are all situations that most people, of course, only see the dangerous part of it, but forget to look up at the bright side. And I think if you can reset the way you think, it is so important. And in my case, my husband died 11 years ago, leaving me with 3 kids. in the US, and it's still hard to talk about it, but I think immediately it's like for my kids' sake, I have to look up how can I make them happy, and I think as an opportunity, we are a close family. I would never ever really, I mean, when at night when they're asleep, the only thing I did was work, so I really got always more and more responsibility. I have a job now that I love, which of course wouldn't be there otherwise, and I got to know my neighbors, which I didn't know, and others, because I had to survive. All our families in the US. Then I got to make lots of new great friends. So again, you have to switch your mindset, and I do it every time now. If the competition launches something that could be disrupt what we do, I see it as an opportunity. Let's see what they did. I mean, maybe we can whatever. So it's very, very important. And finally, and that comes down to this, right? You have to create an environment where your researchers and your scientists and the people working there have fun. I think it is extremely, that comes back to how do you do that? I mean, you have to have when you go work somewhere. I mean, many people, you both have to enjoy the people you work with, as well as for scientists it's often the kind of projects they work on. And so we have many things in Xerox research that, for example, we said funding separate, which is an incubation fund we call it, where even after all the annual budgeting process is done, researchers can apply for extra funding for some key projects, and many great projects came out of it, including making our 3D Second Life Research Center, right? I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that a year ago. So it's a researcher who applied for funding, we gave him funding, and now it's a major program, the 3D Virtual World, research organization. So I mean, there are many, many things we do. We have cookie talks, we organize research conferences, we have lots of active blogging going on, and we really, it's all about making somebody passionate, because only if you're passionate do you do really great work. And of course you can't have fun at work if you don't have fun at home. And you need to also create an environment where there's lots of flexibility for people truly to integrate their work life, because today you can work basically from any place. And then you have to make sure, what I always say, and I'll end with that, these are actually, my daughter is an engineering student at Cornell, and that's her dorm. So you, at home what I do is I delegate everything as much as I can, and I've been doing that since I basically was starting engineer. It doesn't necessarily need to be expensive. In fact, if a high school girl goes shopping for you, grocery shopping, my grocery list is all automated. It's on my fridge once a week. Sometimes there is a new revision if our local grocery store has some new products you want, or if the kids grow up. But so we go shopping once a week, the student goes, and in fact it's significantly cheaper than if I go and throw in some extra olives and some other stuff. So I mean, really delegation, simplification. I mean, we have lots of stuff we simplify, and leveraging IT. I mean, it used to be my computer system when I worked from home for IBM or Blackberries now. I mean, really making time so you have time to be with people you really care about, because that's ultimately what life is all about, and it's too short not to have fun in what you do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful talk. Would you take your question?
Of course, you are the timekeeper here.
No, we have lots of time.
Yes, excellent. Yes.
Sorry, but I'm sure that you guys have dealt with this. So as the ink disappeared,
yes,
and you suddenly realize that was a particularly important piece of data.
Yeah.
How do you, what is the magic elixir that gets poured on this stuff to stop this disappearing?
Yeah, so these are some of the dreaming sessions we had with our customers and some of the inventions we are doing today. But number one, most documents, most customers didn't really care because they always had a digital version, could print it again today, right? And other people really loved it. Like I spoke to some professors at a different school and said, this is great. I can actually hand out the answers to the exam questions, and the next day it would be blank, so the students could never give it to other students in the future that I can reuse my questions. So we have to make sure it also cannot be Xerox, but I think today it can. So good, yes.
You talked a lot about the ingredients that you need for innovation, and I agree with all of those that you have on there. Can you say something about the actual process that you have?
Yes,
because the idea is only the first part.
Yeah.
And basically you want to have a process that transforms the idea into a product that you can sell for profit.
Of course. And we have lots of processes there, and that's a whole separate discussion almost. I mean, the way where are you going to focus, right? What I'm looking for is one backup slide I had. Come on, this one doesn't want to go away. Let me make sure this doesn't start playing. We have research and then we have product development, right? So within research, we have 3 different buckets of research programs. One is really the explore bucket. It's really the far out. I mean, like organic electronics that we're working on right now, or printing them. It is things that are not yet connected with the main business, or it's looking at completely new services that we would like to, or web tool based printing, publishing, etc. Actually, that one will move through it very fast. And then some of those ideas really become very valuable, and we want to scale them up a little bit, make the team larger so that we do all the inventions that are needed before the business groups where most of the engineers reside take them on. So that's what I call, these are normally larger, like these would be 1 to 3 people projects. These might be 20 to 40 type, bigger size programs to really make it much more robust. We start working with the business and finance people, marketing people, business leaders, and once they are convinced that this is indeed the right new product or platform, because we never developed just one product, then the business team starts taking ownership of this product, right? No longer the researchers, but the business team. That we work with them in partnership to successfully transfer all the technologies, and we work with them. They have a 5-phase product development program. We call it our time to market program. And the first 2 phases, we work hand in hand in partnership with the business group to make sure ultimately the whole system will be reliable and low cost and high quality and everything that is needed. Or if it's a service, we use a different time to market process, because of course the piloting with the customer and everything is much earlier. But the customer is a key part of all of these. I mean, most of the dreaming sessions our researchers are actually in the explore phase to make sure that the new things we come up with, like this paper, could make sense in the end. But what I don't have a slide of is a 5-phase, very disciplined product development process with many metrics and etc. So that ultimately it hits the market.
But you do formal business cases.
Of course. The preliminary business cases are, I mean, people will kind of estimate the market size, etc. The first business cases are being made here, because that's really when we're incubating both the business concept as well as the product concept. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Besides the normal incentives of promotion and salary and publicity for getting a patent off, does Xerox use any special incentives like contests or prizes or any of that sort of thing to get in, to stimulate innovation?
Let me answer that in different ways. Number 1, we have a dual career path. We have the management ladder and then the technical ladder. And so Peter Crane is one of our senior fellows, which is less than 1% of our scientific population. So we have members of the research staff, then we have principal scientists or engineers, and then we have fellows and a research fellow. So that really encourages people to really focus on the scientific. And then you have, of course, the managerial ladder. In addition, we really encourage people. We celebrate external awards, like if somebody becomes a fellow of the IEEE or some other institution. I make it very visible in my communication meetings. And we have other awards. We have science and technology, financial awards for individuals if they do something.
Bonus, which you're specific on invention. So invention becomes a patent. We'll generate a cash award for the inventors in partnership, averaging $1,000, $1,500 per invention.
So we and the other thing we definitely encourage is for we do have an award system within the company. The Excellence in Science Award, or Excellence in Technology Award, or the Joe Wilson Award, like the highest level award named to the inventor of photography. So that's important. But if you have any other suggestions, I would love to hear about them.
Let's take one more question. And if you have a reception here, Sophie will be here for a while.
Yes, here.
Yes. I wonder if you've done any research or work into applying the document categorization to individuals instead of just companies. As a student, I already get more documents.
That's right. Again, it is really a web service base, right? So individuals could use it, and we have applied it to image categorization. So if you have thousands of pictures, you could say I want to categorize them between my beach pictures, whatever, my city pictures, my bar pictures, whatever you want to do. But but we have not actively looked at a student as the end customer of this, because again, today we sell it as a service, not as an individual. But some of these technologies are on the Xerox Research Center in Grenoble website. You can download them and play with them. I don't know if the categorizer is still on there, but if it's new technologies we're working on, we like to have some people's feedback, so we put them on the website and people can play with them. Yeah.
We're gonna have a reception down
Okay,
the hall.
cool.
Let's before we thank Sophie one more time, let me just say you can't leave Princeton without something orange and black. So,
okay, thank you very much.